Welcome back, Focus learners. Today, we're skipping the usual agenda stuff. Why? Because I want to preserve absolutely every single ounce of suspense for today's psychological thriller. We're unpacking a really fascinating, deeply unsettling narrative from the classic horror series Ahat. It completely twists that standard haunted house trope into this dark, complex exploration of hidden sins. So buckle up, things are going to get intense.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Our inciting incident comes from a terrified little boy named Suraj who frantically says, "I saw a man attack a girl with a knife. I saw it with my own eyes." I mean, just imagine being a kid, right? You're looking out your window at the apartment building across the way, and you witness a brutal, vicious murder. That is the explosive, adrenaline-pumping start to our source material today. Section 1. The Empty Flat.
To really understand the dread that builds in this narrative, we first got to ground the story and set the scene. So young Suraj and his mother Priya, who, by the way, is currently bound to a wheelchair recovering from major surgery, have just returned home from Canada. They arrived 5 days early to surprise the father of the family, Rahul, who travels a lot for business. It's supposed to be this joyous, perfectly safe homecoming. But then, Suraj looks out that window and sees the attack. When he actually rushes across the way to investigate the scream, he finds a totally chilling scene. The flat and B block up on the 5th floor has been locked shut for months. The building guards confirm there are 0 registered occupants. Nobody lives there. The only thing coming from it is a foul, decaying odor. So here is the chilling rhetorical question we have to ask ourselves. If the flat was completely empty and locked from the outside, who or what did Suraj see being brutally attacked?
Let's move along and see how this builds, because the terror doesn't just stop at a ghostly vision from a window. The source material shows a rapid, really aggressive escalation. We learn that right before the family returned, a maid named Chaturi was sent by Rahul's personal assistant to secretly clean that exact locked flat. And she vanishes without a trace. Then, the personal assistant who goes looking for her, he's violently attacked in the dark by an unseen force. This entity isn't just replaying a memory, it's active, it's angry. And the haunting inevitably spills right over into Suraj and Priya's supposedly safe home.
Section 2. The Unseen Presence.
Now the pacing of our story really hits the gas. The sanctuary of the family home is totally shattered. This unseen entity crosses the threshold, and their safe space becomes a horrifying trap. It systematically breaks down the family's psychological and physical defenses. First, you've got heavy kitchen utensils violently crashing to the floor all on their own. Next, Priya, who is incredibly vulnerable in her wheelchair, remember, is cornered by an unseen, terrifying woman right in her own bathroom. And most horribly, young Suraj is physically lifted and suspended in midair, literally screaming for his mother to save him. The sheer brilliance of this horror narrative is how it specifically targets and isolates a physically disabled mother and a young child, all while the father, Rahul, is conveniently away.
This brings us to a massive turning point in our explainer. We really have to ask, is this a random haunting or a targeted invasion? Why this specific family? Why now? Well, just as the supernatural violence reaches its absolute peak, Rahul, the father, finally unlocks the front door and returns home, completely unaware of the nightmare unfolding in his apartment. But he isn't exactly walking into a rescue mission.
Section 3. A Mother Transformed.
When Rahul walks in, the explainer shifts from your classic haunted house ghost story into something psychologically deeply disturbing. He's forced to witness a shocking contrast. His normal wife, Priya, is recovering from major surgery. She's a loving mother, strictly bound to a wheelchair. But the possessed Priya that greets him, she's standing fully upright. She's walking effortlessly across the room, her demeanor is fiercely aggressive, and she's singing to him in this deeply unsettling, seductive manner. And this brilliantly illustrates the impossible, terrifying reality that immediately tells Rahul something is horribly, horribly wrong.
But it is Rahul's reaction that completely shatters everything we thought we knew about this story. Confronted by this possessed version of his wife, a terrified, panicking Rahul screams, "I will kill you again just like I killed you before." Actually, let that sink in for just a second. The terrified father figure just confessed to murder. In one single sentence, the script is entirely flipped. The ghost isn't the primary villain of this story, the husband is.
Section 4. The Dark Secret Revealed.
We are now at the climax of our narrative mystery box. Let's pull back this final, rotting layer of the story and figure out exactly what happened in that locked flat on the 5th floor. Now, what's really interesting about this next piece of the puzzle is the introduction of a new name. Through the dialogue in the source material, the entity possessing Priya finally identifies herself, Sneha. She isn't some random demon or a faceless ghoul. She is a very real woman from Rahul's past, a woman who desperately loved him and wanted to be with him, to the point of demanding he leave his family.
So, the crucial point is understanding the sinister motive behind the madness. It all comes down to false prestige. Rahul didn't kill Sneha out of self-defense. He was having a covert affair with her, and when Sneha threatened to expose him and ruin his perfect, curated family life, he murdered her in cold blood in that B-block flat. Why? Just to protect his social standing and his image. The ghostly monster terrifying this family is actually the victim of Rahul's desperate, cowardly need to hide his sins.
Section 5. The Ultimate Confession.
The story now reaches its emotional and terrifying peak. Sneha's vengeful spirit has finally cornered her murderer, and honestly, she executes an absolute masterclass in psychological revenge. Step 1. She takes Priya's body hostage, stripping Rahul of his beloved wife. Step 2. She suspends the innocent son Suraj in midair, directly threatening his young life. Step 3. She forces Rahul into a corner where his absolute only option to save his bloodline is to publicly confess his sins. It's brilliantly poetic justice. I mean, Rahul murdered her to prioritize his family's image, so Sneha uses that exact family as leverage to absolutely destroy that image.
And her brutal plan works. Cornered, broken, and desperate to save his child, Rahul screams his confession. I confess my crime. I am ready to hand myself over to the police. Please leave Suraj. What started as this terrifying supernatural haunting was, in reality, a relentless pursuit of justice from beyond the grave for a hidden murder in the B-block flat. Priya, who momentarily regains her senses through the possession, is utterly disgusted by her husband's horrific actions.
Which brings us to the profound thematic core of this entire story. The innocent family pays the ultimate psychological toll for the father's hidden sins. Yes, Rahul is going to jail and justice is served. But think about Priya. She was possessed and had her bodily autonomy completely violated. Think about young Suraj, who was physically tortured by a ghost and literally had to watch his hero, his father, admit to butchering a woman. The collateral damage of Rahul's false prestige is just absolute devastation for the very people he claimed he was protecting. It leaves us with a chilling realization to close out this explainer. If the past never truly stays buried, what secrets are lurking behind the locked doors in your life? It's a dark reminder that the ghosts that haunt us the most are often the ones we create ourselves. Thank you for joining me for this thrilling deep dive, Focused Learners. Keep asking questions, keep looking for the truth in the shadows, and I'll see you in the next explainer.